Hello? Are we live? Are we not? I think we're live. I hope we're live. Are we live or is it the Memorex? Okay. Hello, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the opening acts. You probably didn't. That, of course, was we of course had stickers and Luke Peabody. And let us begin things with the ever lovely, ever wonderful, ever beautiful, evergreen quarantine stream theme, shall we? Life is but a dream in the quarantine stream. Beautiful. Tis like the singing of the angels themselves. All right. I'm very curious as to what's going on out there. I don't know if we lost connection or if we were cut off. It's hard to say. We might just be straight up having lots of connection problems tonight. I have no idea at this point. So, it's interesting. Funny how these things work. But you never know. Okay, it looks like we just got cut off. Okay, I was just curious. Thank you for bearing with me. I know it's unprofessional, but all right. So let's get started. 30 minutes in. All right, this is called Dance the Night Away. A blue wave sprayed gently onto the window. It remained an unfaded crescent reaching over the rooftop. Birds flew through untethered. Droplets yawned in sonorous applause. The shape succumbed, giving way by matching passing movements. As when water splashes in the sky, a maypole stands unraveled while a sunfish kisses a butterfly. The fences were then a canvas, soaked tissue paper sprung over electrical wires, fragile forktails freshly shaven, as bronze tiger beetles glanced up at the heavens. Dance the night away! Hope you're all doing well out there, staying safe. Numbers are looking good, so that's good. Oh wow, the connection is really wonky tonight, huh? Of all the nights for it to be weird, I really hope to high heaven that we don't get cut off anymore. This is pretty bad. Oh well. This was going to be a relatively short set anyway, so hopefully we don't run into too many problems. Let's see. Makes me nervous. The way that this works is I pull up my books. I'm sure I've said this before. I pull up my books on Scribd and read off of that. So I oftentimes am not looking at the feed. So if like you leave comments or likes or something, I just don't see them until afterwards. So and sometimes I don't look at the given video for weeks. So sometimes I just don't know. So, at any rate, this is called Sympathy for the Cowboy. Oh, one thing I will say, freedom of speech is designed not to, it's designed for the people that you hate. It's designed for the people that you define yourself against. It is for the people that you consider yourself the antithesis of and could ever possibly be like. Freedom of speech is for all speech. And if you are into censorship, I don't care what banner you're standing under. If you are for censorship, you are part of the problem. It doesn't matter how virtuous you are. It doesn't matter how righteous you are. It doesn't matter what you consider yourself. What really doesn't matter. You have jumped the chasm once you are into that. So, I just plant seeds. So, you know, I grew up during the first blushing of the satanic panic, and I learned my lessons early in life. And the furor around the 2 Live crew, and how insane that was. So I learned my lessons, and I don't fuck around. Nor should you, if I may. So, and I may. This is called Sympathy for the Cowboy. Sympathy for the cowboy, all alone on the range. After the war ended, he was forced to change his name. Sympathy for the cowboy, holding his dying brother, who begged with his last breath, "Tell mother I died with honor." Sympathy for the meth lab and all who fight in harm's way, who hope to abolish minimum wage, charge only $15 a day. Sympathy for modern times and those who argue they're right. Sympathy for the victim who already has all the laws on their side. Sympathy for the student who's only lived in theory in a hammer and sickle t-shirt, walking away from the barricade. Sympathy for the lawsuit and all who fought for reform. Sympathy for the bumper sticker telling you to be reborn. Sympathy for the stallion running free and too wild to ride. Sympathy for the motherfucker who tried, his wife cried, him and his foolish pride. Sympathy for the strawberry and the trial separations, press releases pleading for privacy, and, of course, doing it for the kids. Sympathy for the nihilist, sucking on his cigarette, cutting you off in traffic, no constraints of guilt or regret. Sympathy for the stalker on his computer outside, looking at pictures of you in high school, saving each one even if it takes him all night. Sympathy for the cowboy whose son moved off the ranch, said he might be coming back soon if there's no change of plans. This is one from a couple of years ago. This is called Fawn. Again, I hope that we're doing okay out there. This makes me very nervous. So hopefully this is going out into the world. Two brothers named Canary were said to have stolen from the community chest. They didn't have the decency to steal from the wealthy, take what they need, and give away the rest. But the law couldn't be trusted, and thus were never called. So the Canaries were chastised and marched to the town walls. The locals hoped word would travel down the wire, and that they'd be denied food, lodgings, and water wherever they retired. But quickly enough, the Canaries were forgotten and continued to ride along freely without judgment or punishment. And if they committed any further acts of thievery, it was never noted publicly. Griffith, resplendent in a natty navy suit, steals Jessica's champagne in a wrong-headed attempt to give it back later as a gift, thinking that she'll appreciate it more. Jessica, powerful yet delicate in a mellow peppermint pencil dress, rubs the bristle of Griffith's temples into his sweat and wonders how many texts he'll have to hide from her next. Griffith says he can break skin without bleeding. He dyes water blue before he drinks. He memorizes reviews, then skips to the end of the books that he reads. Jessica can get arrested and go straight home and spend the rest of her week yelling at strangers on the street and snapping reaction shots of the backs of their heads. Griffith is flummoxed as he's photographed exiting his favorite bar in the early morning, his mother's birthday on his mind and a cigarette tucked behind his ear. Jessica is photographed ironically flashing a peace sign on the beach, her mother's week-long visit thankfully now over. Griffith explains to his extended family the nature of his many public feuds and why they will persist, and bats away a leading question by their lawyer, disregarding being disproven by facts, feeling justified in thinking that the best way to reconcile a discrepancy is to attack. Or, as might have been dreamt up in a different way, they made fun of his family name and insulted his family name. They made fun of his family name. They insulted his family name. And Jessica explains to the management at her company that, discounting what could be considered her offensive language, the inherent truth of her statement still stood, though she was struck speechless when asked if only her supporters were aware of her content. According to her informants, a known opponent, unaware she was being recorded, made a remark the weight of which contradicted her previously stated public stance. She compromised her previously stated public stance. Pablo floats in the ectoplasm, washed on the oils, market for his self-portrait. The prize fish! Fawn's teeth snap on water when her magnetic cold alertness goes unrewarded. Satsuki states her ideas for posterity. The problem that I see is that they assume everyone who agrees with them about one thing agrees with them about everything. The problem that I see is that it's another version of corporate thinking. It's another way of being right-wing. It's another version of corporate thinking. It's another way of being right-wing. The problem that I see is that they assume that I will be a standard bearer. The problem that I see is that they are only willing to write their words in chalk. The problem that I see is that they limit me to things that I had no control over. The problem that I see is that their personal truth has no dialogue with honesty. Satsuki states ideas she would likely later delete. I'll never be able to stop forcing emotions from myself. I'll never be able to be an eggshell. I'll never be able to be a pierced genital. I'll never be able to convince people. I saunter past the bar, and the JPEGs of 2003 like it means anything. I step over the bar and resurfaced, insisting that sounds like a rhinestone. I ignore the bar and the people whose minds comprise the seventh circle. I shake my head at the bar, hoping to get money from acquaintances for friendship services. Satsuki notes things that she's overheard along the way. I try and fail and cannot help but hate the people who stay past closing and get distracted where there's a webcam on the wall and hoping no one saw you picking pepper out of your teeth while thinking, it's like modern art and this is being seen somewhere and I'm the subject in this moment, this ultimate moment. Take a drink, the gaze. Take a drink. It's empowering. I wonder if I know them. Old movies to me are like Dream a Little Dream. I wouldn't watch anything older because I'd be bored and I wouldn't even know what they were talking about. Ugh. Kills me every time. Don't you hate that? Makes me nervous. All right. This is one from a book I did. It's going on 9 years ago. It took a year to write, so it was 10 years ago that I was actually working on this. But the book is called Your Future, Your Freedom. I like it quite a lot. This is, of course, called A Moderate Man. I went walking through the morning to enjoy the autumn air, and I came upon a clearing. Some folk from in town greeted me graciously. As they stood waiting, Frank then strode into the center of the circle, with 3 men by his side. Frank abruptly unfolded his note and started speaking. The 3 men reshaped in a line behind Frank, as his inimitable voice intoned, "Men in masks shall not live on your land, for they are cowards whose spirits are trapped. Thou art born without caste, your soul is unshared, and judgment shall not be passed or carried out by committee on your quiet acts." Frank, flanked by the three men, then swiftly left while the crowd collectively shuddered, and there were mutterings of, "What Frank giveth doth not equal what he takes, heart of fowl, eyes of a snake, words of an apostate." I followed the trail back to my home whilst conversing with Pastor Corbett. Upon reaching my front gate, he looked me square in the eye and said, "Just because I am prone to help my neighbor in good faith, family or friend, that doth not make." This is called Lazy Angels. That's for all the people who are being forced to practice ambidexterity. Don't you just love empty fucking buzzwords that mean nothing and are about nothing for people who have absolutely nothing in their brains, and yet they assume that they know everything about the world, about themselves, about how things should be run, and about the contents of your soul and brain. It is rather astonishing, isn't it? Squat woman sealed in a shadow frock, trimmed in white absence of light, selling stories from her garden that she demands are heard, but is greeted with the silence of the crowd's indifference. She doesn't already know that we can breathe and we can leave. She can't see that we already can walk through doors and open windows. Counterfeit prophets steals the locks, illegal sons zero as one. Selling pictures of her dinner her guards are obliged to buy, even as her art collection is vanishing until the walls have nothing left hanging. She doesn't already understand that we can perceive, that we can receive. She can't see that we can paint flowers with any colors that we can imagine. We could fucking imagine all of them. Their far and distant minds are trails best left behind. Sister or father stops the drain under a rotting stage, 6-month wage, selling reports carefully whispered in hopes her wealthy relatives will let her sign their wills first. She doesn't already know that we are her, twice as much or more. A complete verse. She can't see the red and gold bird flying right above. She can't see that we are her, twice as much or more. She can't see that she hands her keys to a steed who gallops away into the orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. Agnerog and Ilor Slig and Ilor Agnerog and Ilor Slig. Orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. This is from a book I did many years ago. It's called Radar Grain. It's called Everyone. The book is called Radar Grain. This is called Everyone. Too late in the evening, 7:45. That man around the corner lost his ring in a fight. Here comes St. Thomas walking through the door, found himself an auction, bought everything on the floor. I don't wake up too early. I don't cut my face. I don't call any strangers. I don't go looking for their graves. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't. Half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. Pork chops in the kitchen, above the sink there's a light. No milk on the table for the blink of an eye. Up the road is a driveway where they come out paid. Yeah, they come out smiling, dead cats in their way. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't. Half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. What are we doing out there? Beautiful. This is from Salt or Light. it is a question that everyone has to answer at some point in their life. This is called, of course, would you sell the relics? And the other thing that I've said about this, I've said before, ostensibly on the surface level, this is this is about the military-industrial complex, but oh no 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 no, for that is an illusion. For it is not at all about the military-industrial complex, though obviously I am opposed to such a thing. No, you see, this uses one form of an abuse of power to discuss another form of an abuse of power. This is called Would You Sell the Relics? The general that only cares about tomorrow also expects everyone to echo the same expression, and when the general can no longer see the power of their influence, they try and exert control over any small circumstances under their command, while the brigadier general worries to no one if they need a transfusion. The colonel, whose concern not enough people's fingerprints matches theirs, requires a warning on the front page of each report, along with a summary cut together by a subordinate in a matter of minutes so they don't have to waste any energy generating any contradictory thoughts, while the captain enters their coordinates so their location is known and updated every moment, which leaves the captain free to make discoveries like the wheel or gravity, then sell their findings to the executives or campaign staff of their choice, urged by a strong sense of benevolence, a tribute to charity as a force. And the first lieutenant's unmatched love of history is proven by the pictures taken of their parents with Goebbels in Brazil in the 70s, and the second lieutenant's jealousy shows and rouses to one, "That's not Goebbels, it's clear it's Mark Bormann." The sergeant major that reset the standards of esprit de corps doesn't know the panic they'll feel a few short years later when they are urged out of the way, that they will become stiff with resentment and resolute in their calls for punishment, and institute measures to monitor how the company behaves, while the staff sergeant writes on a photo of themselves, "The future points to you," and daydreams about collecting the remaining virginities from the sorority house down the road. And they already have the names, ages, and weights in a frequently updated database. Then the staff sergeant complains about commercials before content. The chief warrant officer who breaks ranks to research the order the alphabet was created in gets rueful about seeing themselves age and attending charity events, funerals, and hospital visits, seeing their face in the mirror more washed out than before, wondering as they write their commencement address, who will even be paying attention in the audience, drinking from puddles, seeing what the sky says, not being able to read handwriting as children. They each received a small puzzle. And to the private, it's all an eye roll, and all so boring and shallow to see another round of legacy shut out by an offhand remark. The private doesn't ask any of the officers where they should start. What's the matter where rebellion is kitsch and trauma is Walmart? The specialist greets the private. They each think that the other is a dilettante. And later the specialist considers, what's the matter where you have 1,000 followers and not a dozen supporters? Would you sell the relics? This is called New Razor. We are not teachers, we are not cops, we have no reputation to flaunt, we are the examples. We are not special, we are not gods, we are only following laws. We are the examples. We don't nurse vipers, we don't reinforce liars. And in the event we are questioned if we seeded the list, the answer is it's ours to make it invisible if we created it. We don't debate, we don't walk through walls, we can carve six-sided stars, pyramids, and women with 3 arms. We are the examples. We have apples and candles on our table, no wine, no fatted calf for meat, no lamb grazing in the field, no oil and water on our feet. We are the examples. We are not tension aimed in one direction. We are not a flashlight, we only have a lantern and no manifesto. We're trying to prove right. We are the examples, and we are ruled by none. Ever! 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 It's called Slow Boat to China. The razor skin fell on the seat. The roof had been gouged out by a key. The exits were guarded. A few numbers were written down, all typed out in a foreign language and all the product of inflation. The casino slot machines paid out with surf music in a 20-minute ring. The plumber knocked on the last room of the far wing and was tipped with uneaten meat. I keep trying to leave, but I only get more inside. I made it out of the garage only to be stuck behind a foreigner with $1,000 hubcaps on a $50 car. A girl climbed up the mic and before she got numb, asked them how they could stand the climate. She was from California, never was snowed on, didn't get stopped by trains. 20 miles to 5 miles, then down to 3, then down to 1, then down to 0, ranging from dour to catatonic to irate. Can't tell a building from a train. Everyone drives through except for me, though. I stopped the frame. I took the wrong exit driving into the marching band display and wrote my senator complaining to his face, and he wrote back saying, "Yes, son, it's about time we did things your way." Everybody's an altar boy looking for a lampshade to make straight, some Sunday spending money, a free robe, a thimble out of the river because they got the chance to make their case. Trees go faster in the city, according to the study. The nutrients depleted my body. No electricity is going to open that door. Ice is slow and not enough to keep my attention. My attention. Everybody acting like an altar boy, dragging their disagreements into the street, stopped, slow and coy, using their vestments for sheets. A few quick turns and pleas for a reward, but the holding cell is empty and I certainly don't choose to open it today. I paid to replace the battery and canceled my appointments. The dentist charged me a late fee. The neighbor watched his lawn instead of TV. And here's the moral of the story. I put my dinner in a glass and filled it with water, drank half and left the rest. I threw in some safety pins to see how fast they'd rust, and after 6 months, there were still no results. How are we doing out there? Doing okay? Beautiful. All right, we're going to do a couple of new ones. Excuse me. It's called Windy Sequins. Through the missing bricks, you can see a banquet table with a candelabra crooked from water-falling wax. On the other side of the missing bricks is a tablecloth with faintly gray claw stains left by mourning doves. Through the missing bricks there is a banquet table, heaving with indentations from apples, persimmons, cantaloupes, and pears. On the other side of the missing bricks there is a deer walking in the distance while a finger painting floats to the ground. Through the missing bricks there is a banquet table with unopened telegrams and sturdy silver trays stacked with books about the Enlightenment. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a pebble garden placed on a tree branch next to a mortar and pestle. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table lined along the bottom right edge with bowls of cold dandelion soup. Seated 45 degrees away from the banquet table is a man with a salt and pepper waxed mustache humming waltzes and complaining about the distortion of sounds and colors. 110 years old, and he doesn't know that electric blue can be beautiful, too. It's called Parallel Place. I live in a parallel place, where the land is level, where the streets are bright in the evenings, and I know what tomorrow brings. I live in a parallel place, where the wind is cold, where gray-haired men sweep the bandshell and foxes sleep under church bells. I hear the lank-haired women walking in the morning, their faces shaped by the sun. I live in a parallel place where there's endless electricity with very low voltage, where everyone dies of old age. I live in a parallel place where rain runs into a tunnel, where able-bodied women clear the gutters and dragonflies rise in a slow-motion flutter. I see the able-bodied men hauling fallen branches, their faces shaded by the sun. I live in a parallel place where people speak in peace, where the foreman's spouse greets the mailman in a see-through blouse. I live in a parallel place where the forest faces east, where contracts are written in invisible ink and codes are created with a wink. I see all the people breathing through the day, their faces graced by the sun. Blissful cardinals, blissful infants, blue reflections magnified 10,000 times, blue beams bouncing off aged lenses, radiant artifacts, radiant heirlooms, White sails blistered by the salty sun, white china stacked in cupboards, shining domes, shining necklaces, green feelings balanced on a yardstick, green parchment weighted down by grapes. Doing okay out there, beautiful. That is slow, slow, slow. Don't like that. All right. It's called the Vatican Vaults. Shelves lined with caskets, ripe fruit piled up in baskets. Sugar cubes and teacups rattle as saucers are dragged across tablecloths. Outside, a crowd sits murmuring. A harmonium coughs discordantly off the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and snakeskin is carefully wrapped around palms. Two men each wear a veil, one off mauve, the other pink lady red. Gravel sits at the bottom of stained glass vials, and mink pelts are smoothed out over tiles. Three elderly spinsters raise their voices in praise, their weathered hands shaking at the sky. Gold medals tied around their waists reflects the sun directly into children's eyes. Four blind beggars fool the crowd into believing they're brothers who compete by tying knots and rope faster than any comers, the act only ending at dusk when they split their spoils. Stars roll around the moon, back and forth from end to end. Clouds erase them away when each new day begins. This is from the new book. By the way, the new book is called Apples and Ice Swimming Together in Soapy Water. Plug. You can go to Scribd, look at the books for Richard Millett, or, Flux Life Inc. Or you can go to fluxlifeinc.com and go into the books section and scroll down past all the other ones, and there it is. So, this is called Should I Go In? The silver peppermill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport. And though she never really shows anybody, I still know she's an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic top. The well-water ice cubes have heard this tale before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can confirm the reports that she's an airport. If you take off your shoes after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage cart. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way to touch your toes and remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. If I could talk to you, I will some more, and just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness, maybe I'm on the thrust of that. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was a train running past the impound lot, and after every platform on the route, she'd whisper, I still love Phil, and I do, and I always will. To know him is to love him. To know him through his art is the single most profound way of knowing him. She was sad when they closed the gates at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats, ordered by the civil rights workers' favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train, her earrings flashing orange lights. She waved hello to the one car she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing, a train to get the tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking over each other at her grandma's birthday. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles clicking their dentures, trying to keep them in place as they speak loudly over each other, clicking and clacking and making sounds as they argue about what routes they took to get there, or how much the grapes cost over at the Jewel, and what they cost last month at this time. All those aunts and uncles talking over each other loudly at her grandma's birthday. 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 Birthday! How are we doing out there? Doing okay? Beautiful. There's a lot of things out there that really need to get evened up. And, do not be afraid. This is called Cruelty-Free Heroin. When the Guardian goes mad, the sun rains against their eardrums, indistinguishable from Morse code tapping on a copper plate. Yes, when the Guardian has gone mad, they're found singing love songs to tanks, draping staircases in flags, breaking car windows to decorate their faces with the glass. When the Guardian goes mad, they're captured pushing a pickaxe into an LED screen and detained for threatening to throw snakes at gas station attendants. When the Guardian goes mad, people suddenly remember to turn on AM radio and patiently follow guidelines before filing a full report. Though there are always doubters and passers-by who start conspiracies, the usual being that this was some sort of planned distraction. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll arrive at every awards ceremony with a ribbon in hand and a mirror in hand and a ribbon under their chin, and make demands to review the voting processes when they don't win. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll rue the day they lost control of their relationships, spending weeks hiring staff to bury paperwork they'll insist doesn't exist. If the Guardian goes mad, all their meals shall consist of orange peels pulled from chain-link fences and burned coffee flavored with molded peach preserves, though there are always doubters ready to offer an opinion of unverifiable proof, summarizing that death and maps are the only real measures of impact. Can you imagine being that fucking sick? If the Guardian cracks up, they'll spend bleak days envisioning trees committing suicide, grandmothers doing crystal meth for the first time, and gnats smeared into toothpaste. If the Guardian cracks up, 7 strangers stuck in a bank will claw at each other to seek cold air in the vault and wait for their families and firemen to arrive and dig them out. If the Guardian cracks up, pirates will walk their own planks and devour themselves once they hit the water, thrashing back at their gnashing teeth, running the seas red until hunter and prey are finally one. Ignorance! Arrogance! The pest control man said unto me, when I was in Japan, I bought cherry bread in a can. I opened it with a knife and split off the wrapper. The air bubbles stayed floating in my mouth, and I rolled them until I returned back to the West. Bliss, tolerance, the pest control man said unto me, sometimes my apartment building turns into a vending machine, and I get deposited out into the evening to provide goods and services for lucky couples with good taste and a few wandering dollars to rub together. This is from the new book. Good one. It is called Investigating Mitsy. She rides around the merry-go-round, wearing satin slippers, chewing pink peppercorns. Her eyes are a miracle in the way they paint names in the minds of rain clouds. The lightning reaches out to introduce itself. The Queen of Atlantis draws filigree for the king while he's taking his bath. Bristling lips kiss the teeth of the key ring and lick ankles in math. She holds a bouquet of clarinets, wearing a lavender herringbone robe and nodding at buckets of soap. Her elbows hold her weight on the sand dune decorated with still wet seashells and teacups, half filled with a treacle she pours onto tree roots. The Queen of Atlantis plans where the French and English will meet. The king eats suckling pig and excites the court over soaking his feet. This is one we don't do often, and perhaps we should. This is called room service. They arrive every time this year. They put swimsuit on. They tell jokes and get the punchlines wrong. We set up the continental breakfast and watch the elevators come down. Before the wake-up calls, we're cleaning the halls. The tables are heavy. We vacuum the lobby. The rest of the morning, we're washing silverware and folding towels. I have to work a double tonight. I'm tired. I don't mind. At least I'll get some overtime. But by 9, it seems like this shift will go on forever. Because it feels like I'm living in a non-stop dream. The lights are always on. I can't sleep or run away because I'll get in trouble. Get in trouble. I can't believe they stiffed me on a tip. I carried their luggage to the street. This is real, so bite my lip and don't ever look back. Don't ever look back. I get so frustrated when they ask me to repeat things because of my accent and then say, it's so cute the way you speak, and I have to listen to some woman complain about the thread count of the sheets. I don't want to work tonight, but I really don't have a choice. I have to make what I can now because I won't be young forever, because it feels like I'm living in a non-stop dream. The lights are always on. I can't sleep or run away because I'll get in trouble. I can't believe they forgot to fill the pool with chlorine. Second time this week. Not my job, but they still complain to me. This is real, so bite my lip and smile as politely as I can. Yes, I understand, ma'am. My heart really gets racing when their kids throw things at me. I can't wait to go home tonight, but it'll be okay, because it's either this or the spoon factory, and I can't wait to go home tonight. We're only doing one older one tonight. This is from Political Glitter. This is I Never Run Out of Money. I've been saying this a few times now. I initially was giving a long to-do about this, but I've shortened it down to. There's a bad word in here. If you think that using a bad word means endorsing the idea behind the bad word, then you're a fucking idiot. And if you're offended by this, that's your problem, not mine. And I'm not going to treat you like a bunch of stupid little babies. Period. Done. This is I Never Run Out of Money. This is a poem about freedom. He got in the car just to drive away. It was 80s night on the radio when he felt his eyelids quiver from the thoughts left in them. He always wanted to go out with one of the older kids, and he sped past her house to remind himself that the whole thing hadn't been fiction. He had to chew on tablets of ephedrine just to stay awake as he careened down a one-lane town. The clock read 2:14 a.m. Name another place where you don't have to worry about the cum on your coat from the guy in back of you on the bus, or the weekend in Boys Town where you lost all your money, where you can die for the 50 stars and still get reborn, where you can vomit on someone else's tonsils and still go home with them for the night. And you know that when you got a dime bag in your lap and you can drive to the servants' entrance to paradise, it's not a privilege, it's a birthright. He was always fascinated by the kids who looked a few years older, who looked coked up by the time that they were 13. Oh my God, fucking seriously? Are we live? Are we still having problems? God damn. I apologize. Motherfucker. It's so frustrating. we'll just pick that right back up. He always was fascinated by the kids who were a few years older, who looked coked up by the time they were 13. The news came from Washington. He had a fantasy that he kept kissing her on the forehead. Oliver North had been acquitted and Fawn Hall wasn't to blame, just like when they arrested Manuel Noriega because he wouldn't pay cash for the shipping costs of all his cocaine. He pulled into Super K for some Coca-Cola and saluted the limp American flag on the way in. Rolling Stone had Bruce Springsteen on the cover, and he felt like he had razor blades inside his stomach. Somehow everybody felt let down by the Gulf War. It wasn't as bloody as My Lai, it wasn't as funny as Grenada, and Gooks weren't bombed in the process. The commodities and golden parachutes kept all the middle management well liquored up. By the time Bush was giving his resignation speech, voodoo economics and the crack epidemic sometimes made you wish that Nixon had been right all along. But this never seemed to bother him, and the national debt never meant shit to any decent citizens, especially not the kids who saw Heathers when it was still in the theaters. He got off his phone with one of his friends who complained that crack smoking was just a quote-unquote cheap ghetto high. The erythromycin was fucking up his liver, but hey, it still at least kept the acne off. He read a book about Charles Manson and figured the only difference between him and Nixon was a few years in jail and a copy of the White Album. But still, the thought of Squeaky or Sadie dressed up in their black capes, creepy crawling through somebody's house was still freaky enough to keep him sleeping out on the couch. That night, he had a horrible dream. Eric Estrada was hosting a beauty pageant at the Playboy Mansion, featuring categories like worst facelift and most fucked up tit job, but he couldn't walk away from the spectacle of it all. All he could do was to slug down a bottle of Thunderbird and cradle a hard-on while slobbering, "I do believe I'm ready for the Playboy Mansion. I want to see half. Open up those goddamn gates!" He woke up before the former First Lady wet t-shirt contest and ran to his car in horror. He flicked on the ignition and forced in a homemade tape, and while Everybody Wants to Rule the World leaked out, he thought about how much he hated those old political arguments he heard that individuals are symptomatic of a sicker society. He came upon Super K, the great beacon for people who are lonely and cheap, and admired its neon beauty against the black, backdropped sky. He was looking sideways and feeling sick about what was smothering the rest of the land. Strip mall upon strip mall, grids and rows of anonymous stores. He thought about how all this used to be a beautiful forest and how disgusting it was that every developer was using their own lunch hooks to get a portion of the profits. He felt his stomach tighten from the thought of another obese teen selling Swatch watches and sunglasses, but then he turned his head forward, away from the strip mall. It saw nothing but outstretched lanes of tree branches and unpainted roads, and he knew that he was finally getting ready to go home. And this is of course, White Cello. Come on, take the white cello. Next to your right hand. Talk to me. I'm in the open window. I'm not in time, but I've got your watch, and I need to learn to play this white cello. Scratch the surface. I'm on the shore with a can of sugar. It's never bitter. I'd really rather be playing, though, because I like the white strings and the white bow. That's not her. That's her was the simplest thing you said today. I'm still reeling with no moments except now. You don't possess any of the microscopes, so instead I will take the telescope. I'm trying to be angelic, which isn't easy after getting desensitized with disappointments. Every night eating fresh vegetables, but planning, you already know. And then you talk me out of it. You don't have a pistol in your waistcoat. Your teeth aren't flecked with flax seeds. My misjudgments are my own, and most are unknown. But just because I'm a pacifist doesn't mean I'll let any dumb motherfucker abuse me. And speaking of myself, notice me! I'm standing next to the tree where the guy crashed the stolen car, then got out and ran for it. But I can behave for over 100 days, and I've squandered my efforts and so much goodwill that I sometimes still need to try to convince myself that I should try to take lessons to play at all. But I'm sure that you want me to, and I know what I can do. And with that, we're not missing anything. We're humming songs through the phone. We're midnight movers. We're holy rollers without a religion. No, we're not. And don't be the guy on the bike in the right lane racing for his life against rush hour traffic in the morning. I know you are, and you know that I care, and I feel like I'm Clark Kent all dressed up in primary colors, and I just haven't taken off my glasses yet. She said to me, as long as it's not evil, and I said to her, I cannot be evil, certainly not right now. But it's the rising sun, it's a hard-boiled egg, it's basil, it's a blue charm. I just want to play the white cello. I just want to sit in a circle and think about it some more. So we're going to wrap this up or test people's patience? Syquins. No, 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 no. I'm just thinking out loud. It's warm communication going on over here. See, that's what I'm talking about. So instead, we're going to change some channels. Quit Samson Nichols and all somebody's must be wearing a blue suit. Go to the slants and cut off your slants. It'll be like a reverse safari where they put lion streeters and tigers in a truck and driving around and showing more people shopping gas and walking down the street and pumping gas. It'll be the apex of manifestation. It won't be something that's in the Bible, but it will be like the Bible. It'll be a suburban safari where some guy named Greg comes up to you and gives you a little pith helmet with plastic binoculars, and you wait under the kitchen table for his cat to use the litter box. But why does it gotta be white? Never heard from before. Advertising space available. Clean, clear water. And of course, the tastiest tomatoes. All right, we're doing good? Beautiful. All right, this is our last piece of the night. This is a beautiful little thing. It's called Rubber Buttons. It needs to be kept simmering and time should flow slowly. Well, let's go! My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love to see a basket of swimming snowflakes. My shoelaces are undone, so I throw them next to a trunk full of styrofoam tongues, and the person who brought them yells, "Thank you." The first person in the castle has the obvious advantage if they wish to scrape their fingernails against century-old windows. They can concentrate vacantly while being unfailingly polite and insisting their hands are made of the same sand as found outside on the beach. They know there is no joy in failure for their friends, and that the fun in restoration happens once the work is done. The second person in the castle has obvious ease with boldly seizing treasure only they can see through a fizzing camera lens. They can research quietly while having no qualms about their ambition outstripping their abilities in assessing gaudy antiques. They know there is no lemon rich enough in sourness to let their taste get challenged into swallowing insects and soiled tents. The third person in the castle has the obvious edge when turning their profile to face the East End in hopes of repairing a table leg. They can dutifully saw and sweep the dust into the bin until the bell sounds for them to begin slicing vegetables in the kitchen. They know there is no creek deep enough to keep them from molding jellies into a series of perfectly semi-translucent wedges. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because I could not count for cufflinks, they counted for me. Because I could not look for light bulbs, they looked for me. Because I could not dance for diamonds, they danced for me. They realized the chateau has the clear advantage as the place to evaluate flashy antiques. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make rubber buttons to wear for myself. While I sew, I look at the library and remember each of my most memorable finds. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons I wear on my jacket. I buy the materials from the tan-toothed man who sold my mom a gold wishing box. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I preach with the collar, it preaches with me. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I move with the minnows, they move with me. They realize the chateau has the clear advantage when you're evaluating flashy antiques. Let's go! Well, it's all right. The shoelaces are undone, so I only walk sideways and photograph a plum purple terracotta planter with a flag with a price tag sticking out of it. Oh, it's hard to know. My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love wearing an apricot ascot while hearing stories about Korean camping sites. The first person in the tower can brighten their senses by energetically exchanging sunglasses and hairstyles once safely ensconced all the way up at the top. They can cheerfully sing along with anything, though they prefer Caruso and ragtime to songs they don't know. There is usually a fixed point in the distance for them to focus on things such as a helicopter or hawk taking off shortly after dawn. The second person in the tower can loudly shout, "How I love my girl!" which echoes back so overwhelmingly they can think that they are in a private booth. They can detect the scent of her shampoo in the wind and look down to see her looking up and running towards them. There is normally an iron staircase nailed in 40 years ago, which serves as the one modern addition to the edifice. The third person in the tower can tell endless jokes over dinner about the rabbits they saw nipping chocolate from their mother's open purses. They can wear a lei around their necks, which contrasts sharply with their pinstripe sport coat and tartan flat cap. There is always a sauna where they can fall asleep underneath a slippery painting of their father, all dressed up as a captain. My shoelaces are undone. They lay underneath the warmth of the sun. This is a true depiction, recited with excellent diction. Let's go! And now I recall other memories from walking around the castle. The humidity kept at bay, clouds letting loose only hints of rain, and vines intertwining across each other, and each new flower that blooms another gift for the dozens of bees in love with the newness of June. It's all on top of my eyes. The curious sage in an orange and brown dashiki, standing before a statue of the stripped Christ, arms open and hovering, all on top of my eyes, lithium batteries in between her teeth. She holds a screwdriver dipped in green paint as she walks over underground cables. All on top of my eyes, in between her toes. She staves off headaches with gallons of water and sleeping when she can. All on top of my eyes. The swells of excitement are just one continued drone. Close concert of ideas, stretching fingers. You did a great job today. Devoted, seriously. All on top of my eyes. One wonder, one today. They say for every boy and girl there's just one love in this old world. And I know I've found mine. The heavenly touch from your embrace that tells me that your love is real. Ever in my heart. Young love, first love, we share with true devotion. Young love, our love, we fill with true emotion. Just one kiss from your sweet lips that tells me that your love is real. Ever in my heart. We will vow to one another there will never be another lover for you or for me. Young love, we fill with true devotion. Young love, we share with deep emotion. And that, folks, is another exciting edition of the Quarantine Stream. We hope that you've enjoyed it. And let us now hear the ever lovely, ever wonderful, ever beautiful, ever glorious, ever green Quarantine Stream theme once again, shall we? Lovely. All right, folks. We will be back next week. By the grace of God, we will be back next week. That's straight, Richard. All right? And until then, stay safe, stay smart, and stay free, because you already are. Yes. All right, folks. Like I said, by the grace of God, we will be back next week. Thank you for watching. Hope that you've enjoyed it. And a big thank you to our special guests, Luke Peabody and Stickers. Hopefully you'll be hearing more from them in the future. All right. All right. Like I said, by the grace of God, we will be back again next week. Bye, everyone. Bye.